All right, I believe we're back. So today I will be talking about the tragedy of the commons. And so I don't know if I mentioned that specifically, but that is the main topic that I'm talking about. And so you may have heard this in an economics class or in a philosophy class. This is a just sort of an example that someone back in the 1800s threw out as a possible learning experience, and it has become a good metaphor and a good analogy for a variety of different situations, to solve problems and to just sort of get an idea of what's going on. So so I'll just start off by saying the original example. So the tragedy of the commons. The commons, which is not necessarily what we would think of today. So what the commons it was an open land that was available to everyone for grazing their animals, and this is a slang term that was used by people in in 1800s Britain. So the commons was, like I said, it was a big field, and anyone could go let their animals graze the field, eat the grass, and whatnot. So this raises a lot of economic questions. So this raises a lot of economics questions. So obviously, there's only so much grass and so much land that can be grazed, and if you overgraze that land, then the land dies and it doesn't become a replenishable resource. So then it's no longer available. And so what happens is, let's say that everyone grazes one animal on the land, and so this creates a sustaining ecosystem. The animals are well fed. Then the grass is able to regrow because there's not too many animals grazing it, and then so the animals are being everyone's having an equal share of this land. Now, common economics would say that if there are more resources available, people will attempt to acquire those resources. So, what the idea in this analogy is that if there is more land to be grazed, then someone will say, hey, maybe I could have two animals and graze two animals in this land, and then I would have more money than the next guy. Well, the problem with that mentality is, yes, there may be enough land for one person or maybe even three people to graze an extra animal, but that means that those three people, or however many people it is, will be more well off, or will be better off in terms of economic standing than the rest of society. And the problem with that is when people see that other people are doing better than them, they will figure out what they're doing, and they will start trying to implement that into their own way. So then more people will get two animals and graze them, and then the people who originally had two animals will say, okay, now everybody's on an equal playing field with us. We got to up the game because we have more resources now, we have more money, so we're going to get three animals, or we're going to graze for longer. And the problem with this is when there's no regulation in how the community resources are divvied out, then common economics and the idea that humans are just jerks tells us that everyone will take as much as they can. And the problem with that is, as a society, it doesn't work. It's unstable. So the problem with that is when you overgraze the field, then there is no longer a field to graze, and everyone loses. So we talked about this a lot in my philosophy class that I took I took last year, and so my professor gave us a sort of hands-on example, and he handed everybody a piece of paper, and so everybody he gave them two different pieces of paper. One was yellow, one was blue, and so basically, one meant that you cheated and the other one meant that you didn't cheat. And what happens, so what he would do is he would say that if you choose to cheat, then you will get 5 extra points on a grade. But if you don't choose to cheat, but if more than a third of the people cheated, then nobody would get extra points. So what happens is he would say, okay, everyone close their eyes, and then on 3, hold up a piece of paper based off of your decision. So he would count to 3, everyone would hold up a piece of paper, and when you get around to counting it, almost everyone cheated. Because if you don't cheat, then you have a worse grade than everyone else. And so the idea is that a small number of people can get away with it, but a large number of people will think that they can be part of that small number of people, and then nobody succeeds because the entire resources are cut up. So then he upped the ante. He said that if it was the same situation, so if a third of the people cheated, then nobody would. If more than a third of the people cheated, then nobody would get it. But also, if a random person out of the cheating section would be penalized 5 points. So 5 points would be taken off of a grade. So it was reverse extra credit. And so what this does is it's adding in the idea of regulations. So if someone goes past the regulations, then they're penalized. We see this in society. There's regulations on things like fish and wildlife. So if people go fishing too much and if they catch too many fish, or more than they're allowed to for that specific time period, then if they get caught, they are penalized for having that, and they can have their equipment taken away and whatnot. So when my professor did the experiment again, and he had everyone close their eyes and count to 3, and then hold up a piece of paper, I personally cheated just because I was willing to take that risk, and I mean 5 points in that class particularly wasn't that much. But the idea is that in any case, in any specific case, people will always cheat. And the thing is that people will always cheat the system, so you need to create a system that forces the majority of people not to cheat. You can't force everyone to cheat because everyone to be compliant, because that's just human nature. Someone will try to find a loophole, and someone will try to exploit the system so that they are getting more of a benefit than everyone else. And the thing is, you have to create, so that's the reason that laws in society are so important. Because, yeah, some people are going to break the law, but you need to create a law that is severe enough so that not everyone breaks the law, obviously, but a majority of the people don't break the law, so that the society as a whole will still function. You will always have false negatives, false negatives. So people will always get by breaking the law, and so it's hard to create a system where everyone follows the rules. But in terms of economics, you can create an efficient system where people still break the rules, but if you threaten enough penalty for breaking the rules, then the majority of people will still follow the rules. Now, I know this was a lot going quick, but I'll summarize. So the tragedy of the commons is an analogy to a field of land where everyone in the society can graze their animals freely. And so if everyone just grazes one animal each, or for a small period of time, then there is enough field for everyone, and there's a little bit extra. So that extra is the gray area. You can't use more than that, but if people cheat within that range of gray area, then society still functions as a whole. And so that's the idea, is that with human nature, people will always cheat, but you can get by as a group if most people will follow the rules. And so society has to just set up regulations so that that happens. Now, I hope this was a good explanation for you. I have left a link in the description if you want to read up more on the history of that. It's just Wikipedia, but in a quick Google search will get you all you want to know about this. This is a very popular idea in economics and philosophy. So that's all I have to say on that topic as a whole. And I will be playing a short ad, but I will get on to my last section, which is the normal drawing section in Paint. So I will be right back.